The rain poured relentlessly, soaking through her thin jacket as she hurried down the darkened street. It was late, and most people had already retreated into the warmth of their homes, but for Lien, there was no such comfort waiting. She was returning from her third part-time job of the day, her shoes squishing with every step, her stomach aching with hunger. Life had not been kind to her, but she had learned to bear it all with quiet resilience. She was poor, abandoned by her family after she became pregnant in her final year of high school, and now she carried the heavy responsibility of raising her little daughter, May, all alone. Yet even with the weight of poverty and exhaustion pressing down on her shoulders, her heart was still tender, still willing to see the world through compassion rather than bitterness. And it was that heart that made her stop that night when she saw an old woman slip on the slick pavement and fall hard against the cold ground. At first, she hesitated. She had no umbrella, no dry clothes, no money to offer. She barely had enough energy to keep herself standing. But when she saw the frail figure struggling to rise, wincing in pain, something inside her compelled her forward. "Grandma, are you okay?" she asked, kneeling despite the puddles soaking into her knees. The woman's ankle was twisted at an awkward angle, and her face was pale from the shock of the fall. Without thinking twice, Lien helped her up, letting the old woman lean against her as they slowly moved toward the small bus shelter nearby. The woman clutched Lien's hand tightly, her eyes glistening with gratitude. "Thank you, child," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Most people would have walked past, but you stopped." Lien smiled softly despite the water dripping from her hair. "Anyone would help," she said, though she knew that wasn't true. She had seen enough of life to know that kindness was not something everyone offered freely. She wanted to call a taxi for the woman, but her phone screen was cracked and useless, and she had barely enough coins in her pocket for a loaf of bread, not a fare. Instead, she walked the old woman all the way to the nearest clinic, supporting her the entire way despite the aching in her own body. When the nurse asked for a contact number for family, the old woman gave a name, one that made the nurse's eyes widen slightly in recognition, but to Lien, it meant nothing. She left after making sure the woman was in safe hands, refusing even the small offer of taxi fare. "Take care, Grandma," she said simply before disappearing into the rainy night. The old woman never forgot her. A week passed, and life went on with its usual struggles. Lien woke early to prepare simple porridge for May, walked her to the small daycare, then rushed between jobs, cleaning offices in the mornings, serving food in a tiny restaurant in the afternoons, and delivering parcels until late at night. Her body was weary, but whenever she looked into May's bright, innocent eyes, she found strength she never thought she had. Her daughter was the reason she endured everything, the whispers of neighbors, the pain of being disowned, the loneliness of nights spent awake worrying about bills. May was her light. One day, while wiping tables in the restaurant, she noticed a luxurious car pull up outside. A tall, imposing man in a perfectly tailored suit stepped out, his sharp features immediately drawing the attention of everyone inside. He walked in, his presence commanding, and approached the counter. The owner rushed to serve him, bowing almost comically, while the staff whispered among themselves. He was someone important, clearly. Lien kept her head down, focusing on her work. People like him belonged to another world, one she had long stopped dreaming of, but fate had other plans. After the man left, the restaurant owner rushed to her, eyes wide. "Lien, do you know who that was?" "That's Ji Rong, the CEO of Rong Group. He's one of the most powerful men in the city." Lien nodded politely, uninterested. Men like Ji Rong had nothing to do with her life. But that night, when she returned home to their small rented room, she found an unexpected visitor waiting at her door. It was the old woman she had helped. Dressed elegantly but smiling warmly, she greeted Lien like a long-lost relative. "My dear child," the woman said, taking her hands. "I've been looking for you everywhere. I never got to thank you properly. If not for you, I don't know what would have happened that night." She stepped inside, her sharp eyes softening as she saw little May playing on the floor with a worn-out doll. The old woman's heart melted. "Is this your daughter?" she asked gently. Lien nodded, a little embarrassed of her shabby home. But the woman only smiled wider. "She's beautiful." Over tea, the woman revealed her identity. She was Madame Rong, the grandmother of Ji Rong, the powerful CEO. Lien nearly dropped her cup in shock. The woman chuckled at her reaction and insisted on repaying her kindness. But Lien shook her head firmly. "Grandma, I didn't help you for a reward. I only did what anyone should." Her sincerity touched Madame Rong deeply. She hadn't met many young people with such purity of heart, especially in a world where wealth often corrupted values. She promised to remember Lien always. It wasn't long after that Ji Rong himself came knocking on her door. He was skeptical at first when his grandmother told him about the poor girl who had saved her. Ji Rong was used to people trying to curry favor, to gain something from the wrong family. He expected someone scheming or insincere. But when he saw Lien, her modest clothes, her tired yet kind eyes, her little daughter shyly peeking from behind her skirt, something shifted inside him. She didn't ask for anything, didn't try to impress him. She was simply herself. Over time, Ji Rong began to appear more often in their lives, sometimes offering help that Lien stubbornly refused at first. He would bring small gifts for Mei, who quickly warmed to him. He would quietly pay for repairs in their building or arrange easier shifts at her jobs without her knowing. At first, Lien was suspicious. Why would a man like him bother with a woman like her? But then came the truth she never expected. One evening, after Mei had gone to sleep, Madame Rong visited again, this time with Ji Rong. She sat Lien down and looked her straight in the eye. "Child," she said softly, "I know this may come as a shock. But there's something you need to know. Mei, she is not just your daughter. She is Ji Rong's daughter too." The world spun. Lien's heart pounded. How could that be? She remembered the night years ago, the night she had attended a college event with her friends before her life had unraveled. She had met a young man, kind and gentle, who had comforted her when she was at her lowest. They had shared a fleeting night together, one she thought was a mistake, never learning his name. And now, staring at Ji Rong's face, she recognized the same eyes, the same voice. He was the man. He was the father of her child. Tears filled her eyes as she tried to process it. Ji Rong was stunned too, realizing the truth. His grandmother had suspected it when she saw Mei's face, so similar to his when he was young. But confirmation hit them both like a storm. Challenges followed. Ji Rong wanted to take responsibility, to be part of Mei's life, to support Lien after all the hardship she had endured alone. But Lien was terrified. She didn't want to be seen as someone who trapped a rich man with a child. She didn't want Mei to be thrust into a cold, unfamiliar world of wealth and power. She had lived her life enduring whispers and cruelty. She didn't want her daughter to suffer the same. She resisted Ji Rong's help, building walls around her heart. Society, too, became a challenge. When word spread that the CEO was involved with a poor single mother, gossip and rumors ran wild. Many accused Lien of being a gold digger. Ji Rong's business rivals used the news to attack him, painting him as reckless. Even some within his own company doubted her, believing she was unworthy of standing by his side. Lien cried alone many nights, wondering if she had made a mistake by allowing Ji Rong into their lives. But Ji Rong refused to let go. He stood firm against the storm, defending her publicly, declaring Mei as his daughter with pride. He visited their small home often, showing not just words but actions, cooking meals with them, fixing broken furniture, walking Mei to daycare hand in hand. Slowly, Lien began to see that he wasn't just a powerful CEO. He was the same kind man she had met years ago, the same man who had unknowingly given her the greatest gift of her life, Mei. The turning point came when Mei fell ill one winter. She had a high fever, and Lien, panicked and with no money for proper treatment, was about to rush her to a public clinic when Ji Rong arrived. He immediately took them to the best hospital, staying by Mei's side all night. He held her tiny hand, whispering comfort, his usually stoic face breaking with worry. Watching him, Lien's walls finally crumbled. She realized he wasn't helping out of pity or obligation. He truly loved Mei, and he truly cared for her too. That night, when Mei's fever finally broke, Ji Rong turned to Lien with quiet determination. "I don't care about the rumors. I don't care what the world says. I want to be here, with you, with Mei. Let me stay." Lien, tears streaming down her face, finally nodded. From then on, life changed. It wasn't easy. There were still challenges, still whispers, still moments when Lien doubted herself. But she was no longer alone. Ji Rong stood by her, his grandmother embraced her as family, and together they created a new life filled not with luxury but with love, respect, and shared strength. Mei grew up surrounded not only by her mother's unconditional devotion but also by her father's newfound care. The message of their story spread beyond their circle, of how kindness to a stranger in the rain had blossomed into a destiny neither could have imagined. Lien had once been a poor girl abandoned by the world, but her compassion had brought her not only love but also a family she never thought she would have. And in the end, as she watched Mei run across the garden, laughing freely with her father, Lien realized that the greatest wealth was not in riches or status, but in the love that bound them together. Final message: no matter how dark or difficult life may seem, one act of kindness can change everything. Compassion has the power to create miracles, to heal wounds, and to unite hearts. Leon's journey showed that even the poorest girl, through her selfless heart, could find a love strong enough to overcome every obstacle and build a future brighter than she ever dared to dream.